Unfortunately, I have the period where my session is after lunch, where everybody's had something to eat and going to be a bit drowsy. So I'm going to try to make this as exciting as possible. Okay, so what I'm going to do today, this afternoon, sorry, is just make a brief presentation on development of provincial offices and mobile registration. These are the two tools that we've developed, especially after the current commissioner came into office in 2019. We developed this to engage in the rural communities and to bring in more clients and also register as much domestic business as possible. So I'll just wait for them to put up the slide. And of course, as John said, I will be having two people will be coming to assist me in talking about rural communities and engaging rural communities. One of them is our officer from Santo. Her name is Andrina, and the other one is SG Secretary General for Sanma Province. And we also have another guest. He was supposed to be with us today, but they have commitments, and this is our officer from Tana. But we did contact with him in Zoom, so hopefully he can join us this session to get his perspective and his insight on registering a business, especially in the rural communities. So make him, okay. Wow, this is big. Okay, so this is the title of the presentation, Mobile Registration, Engaging Rural Communities and Especially Tafe Experience, since these are the people that, it's a province that has been most successful in this program. Next slide, please. And of course, after the session, there'll be questions and questions for if anybody needs more clarification. Okay, development of VFSC provincial offices. Okay, this was first launched in Tafe in 2020. It is established by an MOU signed by the Provincial Government Council and the VFSC Commissioner. In this MOU, what each party is responsible for is VFSC will provide training and additional office equipment for the officer in the province. What we do is we train one of the provincial officers to do our job. It's mainly just to explain our forms and get it filled and signed and collect the money, and then they scan it to our offices here. And of course, and as you know, the VFSC registry is online, so it can be accessed anywhere. And when it's registered, they can have a printout at the province, or it goes directly to the client's email. What we do, we part as incentive and also to compensate for the province's time, we give back a percentage of the revenue collected to the province as their income. To date, we have signed MOUs with all the provinces except Shefa and Torba. As the commissioner, I think, mentioned earlier this morning, was that we were supposed to sign the MOU with Torba. However, there was difficulties with the runway, so we couldn't. But we are organizing it to. We're going to sign it later this week, later this month. We plan to have all provinces signed by the end of 2023. MOUs signed with all the provinces in 2022. Okay, after establishing the VFSC offices in the province, we developed the mobile registration team. And this is to assist provincial officers to make awareness or to sign up clients. We have had mobile registration deployed in Port Vila and Sanma, and we were supposed to go at the beginning of this year to Tafea, but however, this was postponed to, as you can recall, the two cyclones, and which really damaged Tafea. Our plans for the mobile registration after June is to engage one for Malampa province, and then, of course, for Panama province. So these are the two provinces that we are thinking of deploying the mobile registration team to. Next slide. Okay, so these are the dates and the places, and these are the offices that actually do our registration in the provinces. In Tafea, it's stationed at Isangel, so it's all in the provincial headquarters. And we have Samson Nalau. The people that we engage in the provinces are mainly compliance officers, because more or less they collect the same data that we do when they issue business licenses. So we have Samson Nalau. At Lakatora, we have Martin Bongfifi. Luganville, we have Andrina. In Port Vila and Luganville, it's a bit different because we have established offices there. So Andrina is our officer from Sanma, and she will be talking later on. In Saratamata, we have Jacobet Toa. Now, in Saratamata, we have a little bit of a different arrangement. We had it with the province, but due to some difficulties, we ceased the contract with, the MOU with the province, and we signed up with Vanuatu Post. So they're assisting us doing registration in Saratamata. Of course, Sola and Shefa will be signing the MOU later this year. This month. So those are our locations at the moment. Hopefully, the one at Banks later this month. Okay. As just a brief history on the mobile registration, like I said, it began. We established it in 2021 after opening of the Malampa office. The story behind it is that VFSC went to Malampa to open the office, but also we had a social gathering. We raised funds, and we went to donate some chairs and school stuff for two kindergartens there. One at Urpif and the other at Achin. So while we were, of course, we went off to Urpif, gave all the chairs and donated to the school, but when we went to Achin, because if you all know about Achin, Achin is historically, there was a lot of business people there. They were really good at making businesses. And of course, you know about the ship Achin Star. Also, while we were there, they showed us this big house where they used to sell cars in it. So, as you know, they had a big history of doing business in Achin. While we were there, we made some awareness. Said, okay, come register with us and this and this. And then one of the questions they asked was, okay, we want to register. Where are the forms? So we were a bit taken back, and then we went back, reassessed the situation, and said, okay, we have to have a mobile team to go out to the community, to register on the spot, and to give certificates on the spot. So we developed the mobile registration. And of course, the purpose is to have on-the-spot registration and handing over certificates to make sure, because of course, as you know, in the rural community, it's a bit hard and expensive to come to the provincial headquarters. So we register them in the village, and then when they time to renew, they just come to the province and do the renewal. Okay, so the purpose I have to have the on-spot registration, but also provide awareness, bring VFSC services to the general public, and of course, to ensure that VFSC has a lot of exposure in national events and provincial events. So anything happening in town, you have the mobile registration team with their little tent. These are the equipments that we have for each team. There's two teams. One is based in Port Vila, and the other is based in Santo, to cater for the clients in the north, and for Port Vila in Port Vila and Tana. So that's what we have here. We have a scanner, folding table, chairs, portable tent, laptop, router, and also we have those new generators that are very silent, so they can just be running beside you, and it gives a power and doesn't make that much noise. And of course, the pull-up banners. There's 2 over there, and then we have a storage container and cables to connect everything. These are our rough figures for registered entities in the provinces. You have your business names, charitable associations, and local companies. As you can see of course, Luganville is the next biggest one outside of Port Vila. So we have 590. This is as of 16th June. So again, it's Tafea with 106 registration, Lakatoro and Saratamata. And the table at the bottom over here is in the provinces excluding Port Vila and Luganville. Okay, you have Sanma, so that's excluding Luganville, and Shefa excluding Port Vila. And for comparison, I don't know if you can see this, but so we have 4,528 business name registration. So this is how you can compare it with all the other provinces. Way forward, what we plan to achieve for the after this, especially symposium and for the future, is to, of course, to have a MOU signed with Shefa and Torba, mobile registration, as I said, in Panama and Malampa, and as part of this, we also want to put it in our yearly calendar that we assist the provinces when they go out for awareness. As you know, in the provinces, they issue their business licenses at the beginning of the year, and then that runs to the end of the year. So we want to be with them when they roll out to do the awareness or whatever, so we can always be with them. The mobile registration team is to accompany them in their outings. And yeah, that's third one. And the second last one is to develop internal process to increase staff presence in the offices. Okay, one thing that we've learned that when especially a VFSC staff is present, they can continue to make business plans for the provinces and accompany them, and also assist the provinces in especially registration and general awareness of VFSC products. And at the last one is to elevate VFSC presence in the provinces. From our previous slide, you guys can see that Tana has come up a long way, and we maybe, like in the future, plan maybe to have a permanent establishment there, because as the province grows, we grow also. So that is our way forward. Here's some pictures from mobile registration. We've come to the end of my presentation. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to invite the Secretary General for Sanma to come up to the front, and Andrina, and so we're going to discuss some aspects of registration, especially in the rural communities. So if the SG can come up. I think if it's possible, it has Samson called in, or okay. So what I'm going to request from maybe I'll start with Andrina. Andrina to give her experience and insight on especially one of the recent mobile registration deployments in Santo. I believe they went up the East Coast, and I just want her to talk about her experience, especially during that time.
Okay.
Okay, as you can see, the officer, Samson, is online. Samson, can you hear us? Samson, can you hear us? Samson, you hear me? Testing, Samson? Testing, testing. Samson, can you hear us? Samson? From type column, chat column? Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, I'll start off again with Andrina, and then Andrina give you experience in mobile registration.
Okay, I will give a brief experience about mobile registration in Sanma province. Firstly, we want to thank the Sanma Provincial Council for their continuous support in enabling businesses to be registered with VFSC. Most of the registration that we have made in the office came from the people from the rural areas. Santo is a big island, therefore with mobile registration, we bring the service to them, making them limit their cost. With the help of the area secretaries and administrators of the Sanma Provincial Council, we have able to do mobile registration in Hokapa and Port Lori. The turnout was good, and we mainly registered, we have registered.
MOU with Sanma is a bit different from our MOU with all the other provinces, mainly because we already have an office in Sanma. And what the MOU with Sanma details is that before they provide a business license to their clients, they have to come and register with VFSC. So that's a bit different from the other provinces, and that is the kind of MOU also we intend to sign with Shefa. Okay, so that is how MOU with Sanma is different from all the other provinces. I'm just checking again if Sam, can you hear us? No. Okay, so I'll hand over to SG to give his insight on mobile registration, especially engaging with the rural communities.
Firstly, thank you so much for the support provided by VFSC to rural communities within Sanma province. The MOU we signed, and we have the office established, which is much more visible to most of the people. However, I think this came about after COVID with the stimulus package. The message that most of the rural communities get is you have to register your business through VFSC in order to access some of the services. So that's the time when people start to question. Even a lot of people turn up and say, what is VFSC and all that. So yeah, so people keep coming around, and So we so happy that VFSC actually came down and we start to talk, signed this MOU, and we have this office right in the center of Luganville. So what we did is, as people come in to pay for their business license, they have to go to VFSC, they have to go to VNPF, and the provincial government will be the last to check if you have paid your fees to VFSC and VNPF before we can sign off and then give you the business license. So we set up this simple process, and it helped a lot. However, people came up and say, what is VFSC and all that. So this little process that was set up, we continue to educate people. And this leads on to allow us to start to introduce or work together with VFSC to have the mobile registration. So it was really good, and we started off with one area council going into Port Lorry and Hokaba. And there's a lot of businesses in Sanma, and we will continue to reach other area councils. But it's very, very important, and slowly people start to understand why they have to get registered, and they start to accept that. I think I have to raise one of the challenge also, especially for people, rural communities. You know, some very small business, retail businesses, they have to travel for quite very long distances to come into Luganville and do all that. And sometimes, you know, someone turns up and say, you have to pay this over 10,000 fees. Sometimes to them it's just so much. So maybe this is, we used to get feedbacks. This is the feedback that we get from people, especially very small business. They give this feedback that the fees are so much. The registration and the annual registration fees, maybe it's good that we revisit these fees again. But however, yeah, slowly people start to get involved, and they start to formalize their business through VNPF and then VFSC, and also get a business license through Sanma province. Again, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for that, SG. Thank you for the insight. Yes, what the SG said is true. A lot of times when we go out to especially the rural areas, the feedback that we get is, what do they get out of it? Okay, we already pay Sanma province the business license fee, and now we have to pay VFSC another fee. So it's always asking, what do we get out of it? How we respond to that is that they get officially recognized by the government, and they're officially registered. What we try to say is that a registration certificate is like a your business's birth certificate. So this is what we try to convey to the rural communities, especially in these kinds of questions. And as you can see, it's happened with the stimulus package. The government cannot give money to somebody who does not exist. Okay, they have to be properly registered, and they recognize, then they pass over the money or any other assistance that government has. It has its programs, government has its programs, and it has to keep a record of all the assistance it gives, and of course the person has to exist for it to receive anything from the government. So this is how we try to portray, satisfy the queries on VFSC. We also try to put out that you formalize your business, so you make it more professional to elevate the financial literacy or whatever in the provinces. So this is the messages that we try to give to the areas in the provinces. I think this is the end of our session. I don't know is there any other questions that the general public would ask? Or yes.
Just to add something else to that is, to help our people in rural areas get registered with the with this decentralization plan which the government is currently rolling out to have area councils within the provinces. So now with this decentralization plan, the government is through provinces, we are building offices, permanent offices, and the government has also appointed area administrators, area secretaries, and these we have permanent offices with internet access, and we have this area administrator, area secretaries. These are the services that has been provided by the government, and this will help facilitate things like what we're doing now. So I know some people are thinking, how can we reach this rural area? But just to confirm that yes, through the government decentralization plan, the government is currently building offices and had appointed area administrators, area secretary, which they will help to facilitate these offices. Also, in Sanma, we are planning to move into these area councils, a joint awareness with VNPF, Sanma Province, VFSC. So we're moving to each of these area councils, including area administrators and area secretary, just to let people aware, like you have to get your businesses registered. So slowly we start to help people to formalize their business, but we need to get this first step sorted so people can see how they can come into formally establish their business through all these registrations. Thank you.
Thank you for that insight, Secretary General. Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. I just try to fill in. I think what you can see, we're trying to expand our business overseas, but also we have our focus to get into our domestic market as well. These are things that we have just driven within the last 3 to 4 years. Previously, it's all focused overseas and in Port Vila, but there's a lot of opportunities in the rural, and we're working with the government to drive forward the services that needs to go to the people. We have taken this first step to establish joint presence in the province, looking at an approach that is cost efficient, where we have a partnership where we don't pay for rent, we just have a sharing ratio. Basically, there's a flat rate, and where it gets to a certain extent, we provide a further reward for that. But it worked well for us. Province are getting something, and we were able to help get the service to them. But we realized that in the province, given our 83 plus islands, you can only do as much in the provincial headquarters. You need to get out into the islands and other places in the province. Even within an island like Santo, you can't be in Loconville only. You have to go out South Sando and all this. So this idea of mobile registration came in. With mobile registration, through the MOU signed with VNBF and others, ID and all this, we can give you a registration at your doorstep in the village and all, in Okaden, anywhere. But this issue of connectivity comes into play. I think these are things that, like the SG said, we are mobilizing, and it calls for leaders, people in the government, to really strategize and work together. I see the chairman of Chamber of Commerce here and others, a lot of business here. We can work together to harness this. We've been talking about a lot of this initiative, but I think we need to perhaps like one of these where we just basically go to the islands and say, let's go as a group, let's subsidize the cost and let's bring the services, and possibly we can grow the business in the islands and all this. I think enough of a lot of talking, but we need to get action going and get out there. So what we are trying to show here is some very good results. Unfortunately, our friend from Tana, I'm just filling in so he can, yeah. But it's a success story. And Tana is, there's a lot of focused businesses going there, and we can it's reflected in the business registration, and we in a small way, we're providing this success and driving business in the province. So I'll give it back to, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Samson Sarimla?
Yes.
Yes?
Mi harami vile inoglia Thomas pe mi live tu lo Facebook so
Okay. Okay,
mi
so,
harami vile yellow live lo Facebook.
okay, Istret. So, what we're going to do now is I'm going to hand off the mic to you, and I want you just to describe your experience in registration, what sort of people come for to registration, and yeah, maybe your daily activity with VFSC registration.
Yes, yes. Mi harami vile. Mi harami vile vile sa harami.
Yes, yes. Okay, so Samson, me want them say you talk about VFSC registration lotana. One of them make me very successful.
Isi to ke mi tok bislama.
Yes, you're right, you're right.
Okay, thank you Thomas. Lo an rural context so siamo lo tana no davea.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, thank you Thomas. Lo an rural context so siamo lo davea. Tana. VFSC emi one new something lol people lo davea. Kolosa voline baharan. Time you may establish a movies lo 2020. All people only question plan when I'm now emi VFSC, when I'm now emi Vanuatu Financial Services Commission. When I'm now work blame, so Mr. Trambes will give him all get some understanding. Office blow me emi successful no more from lo understanding blow me emi from mindset blow people. Lol different places, mestem by me different little bit. Be you me lot avea something where me need lo only make me only understand him no more when I'm now function blow officer when I'm now work him and then only start flowing with him. Emi successful lo davea. I mean now emi one law reason or understanding lo people only have a crab easily. Time you explain them good. Another reason emi from me been work also compliance officer of the province. Me engage plan day with the more people or community, especially all business people. Make them say time we explain the financial service commission only understand. But otherwise, me no go out plan day. Yes, me make them narrow something too. Me make them radio awareness, local radio blow me bala. Lol people only understand them small one him now me financial service commission one him now me all roles play him. One name Bombay me happens suppose where you register business name blow you. Me make them some classic example or some lol businesses lo yumi lotana. We only got all names stuff we name ya sometime it should come up lo one different place be since we me register them name ya come also one right lem under law financial services commission or laws from him make him say time only understand them and then only start from narvel something I mean all government contracts we only stop give him law all people law rural. We one law requirements here now. We only must got registration law, business name law get. Make them say all get no more. Only come law on wheel law get up. Only make them all registration. So simply put, me mindset law people with them engagement law. Me also am a compliance officer. Make them say me work with the more local communities, more government do emi make them plan the help inside long all regulations plan time stop regulate them especially all contracts all works we stop come rural areas lo side lo construct them road mall kind of sen.
Okay, thank you too much, Samson. I think one more something when we want to ask you is that lo site lo work blue one em now all challenges where you face him more one em now look lo future lo VFSC especially lo Tana.
Kaya all challenges lo yung lo tafe I think phase one emi office lo yung place emi no full time. Emi no full time suppose we emi full time by you focus specifically lo all ding lo financial service commission and then you sabi pusum ding go vera. Narapla challenge lo place emi ka yumi sign ng contract MOU lo yumi establish mo all services we staff mo yumi establish mo equipments mo tools po yumi be meeting se suppose we yumi got some operation fund lo suppose office in place yumi got some time and then yumi sabi invest some time ikolo wala activities lo financial services commission and then bambay sabi yumi sabi boost them little bit sa all service lo financial service commission lo imi lo tavea narabla something emi from registration emi tanin villa yumi facilitate application process namo sometimes suppose we all officers lo imi only busy and then only take time lo only register all businesses or all companies or association we also lots of applications and then please now by any sort of really give one good picture lo all people lo imi lo tavea but otherwise safe lo office stop ko big one lo people finish the big villa challenge will get there now imi office lo imi lo place you stop part time no imi wait na application ikam you stop process application iko lo only start make registration be you mean no go out with them all ding lo way forward meeting say emi good lo people lo li safe mo lo financial service commission when em now all works lo hem when em now all benefit behind long all registration so sem good lo you me make more awareness Naravla recommendation we mi understand se manage VFSC mi capture vinis mi blo yumi make a movies blo yumi gam one bemena na we mi fully function blo VFSC only Naravla something we also one compliance officer do mi bin look say mi good blo yumi make yes mi understand law business license act you got all requirements stop whereby all ministries have make more regulations when we want them to come out clear law business license act law one law requirements law time we start make them application below you must got you must submit them you must attach them law application below you financial services commission certificate law registration law name law business or company or association since when you mean introduce some community company. So mi want them too much lo si boss emi sabe haben lo yumi lo VFSC together with them all together lo customs and inland revenue sabe work together lo find one way lo make them say VFSC registration emi come one requirement one must inside lo business license act to do with them process lo application narabla something emi every government programs we stop come lo yumi people lo Vanuatu example lo stimulus packets mi want them lo all kind programs also lo government only must put them say financial services commission emi one must requirement kind also by mi sabe make them people only run only register mo same time to only understand more when emi financial services commission when em kind office or when em now work lo hem or when em now benefit lo hem Mo mi want them to also program lo mobile registration ya where mi hold up from to the cyclone we come. Mi want them lo program ya mi must roll out lo ta ya. Lo emi kam one bad lo awareness mo same time do one bad lo register all businesses we stop from say emi stop under long lo. Mi want them to lo si boss in general VFSC through lo VFSC emi engage with the multi different department lo look lo different nak we stop long you try link mulgeta. I think one example let me tell finish. Monarable example let me just for example inside lo business license act you know really got requirement lo you register truck lo you lo land transport authority before you apply from business license. So all kind of same meeting say through lo na forum lo you through lo symposium symposium sabe crowd in general long by all government departments so li try mok together lo link them all lo lo make them say only work more every something if lo make them say lo end lo day you got registration lo every department responsible more all benefits where registration says have bring them lo business all get only access them fully but otherwise obvious lo yumi lo tavea mi habitumas lo stop lo place mo Bambayu mi kohot lo call sen big fella ding ding ya now mi want them lo mi link them ding ding lo registration lo financial service commission you go inside lo all every relevant laws where me engage with the more businesses with the more larvala organizations where laws lo financial service commission and me that's long all get
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Subsound law or input you. Yes, you got full up something where you mention them, and you may take note them. Me tell them thank you too. We have a panel time law. You must have a story and small law this afternoon. Me understand if like busy with them SG. That's why you've not come. So me want to tell them thank you, Thomas. We have a connect the cam or give him some insight, Leo. But you also continue to follow Yumi lo Facebook. Lo you have a look all any discussions or any questions where let me come up later. Okay. Thank you lo attention Livla. Now you Yumi stop make a small roundup. Me like our time open. Suppose you got any questions where you come to general public law, especially. In with them mobile registration or any rural, anything to do with rural communities. Okay, suppose you not got any. Okay, so if you not got any questions, I think by me finish by finish lo please have lo presentation. Again, Sam, thank you to Mas Plo Yusabe Chanimula, thank you SG, Plo Yusabe Kim Insight, and also thank you Andrina, Plo Yusabe Kamo giving small insight to law mobile registration. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Registration and your team. Law presentation where you will you make them. Thank you, everyone. Where is present, you may receiving presentation, especially come experience play me Sanma, Luganville, with them Tavea province. Bye me now invite them the last panel of the day. Before that, housekeeping no Bambai afternoon tea will be ready at 3 p.m. So we will proceed right to the last panel, but it will be ready at 3 p.m. So we'll just proceed. If you want to grab something, just stand and grab your coffee or whatever, and then come in. But the session, the last session, which will be on financial dealers licensing, challenges, the growth and challenges of financial dealers license, will proceed now. I invite the manager supervision, Mr. Joshua Tarinako, to come up in front, and also the panelists. We have representative from Titan FX, and also Explo Global, Solaris Markets, TMGM Group, and Derive. Please, the stage is yours with the manager, and we shall all proceed with that. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much. I just need these people up here, so if you have any question, you can ask them. Johnny? Simon, Daphne? No, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, while they sort out the seating arrangements, I will just briefly give us a background of how we came to this point of the physical presence of financial dealers. And then I will hand over to them to tell us what the experience are in terms of physical presence establishment. And at the end of the presentation, we will raise some valid questions, which some of us have raised this morning. And then we will try and discuss them and see if we can come up with some solutions. So I can thank you very much. My name is Joshua, as you have known, and I joined the Financial Service Commission in 2017. So can we go on the first slides? Okay, so basically the area that we're trying to discuss here is the growth of financial dealers business, opportunities and challenges. So I'll just give us a brief background of how this type of business came into effect. The legislation was created a long time ago, before independence, and a lot of us never knew about this thing until about probably around 2012. So it commenced in 31 May 1971. Last year I was, as me and Commissioner, we went to meet one of the ministers, and he was saying, oh, you know, this thing you should have been created long time ago. And I was telling him this law has been in existence before independence, and nobody knew about it. So anyway, during the time, the Act was created basically for trust companies. The definition of securities was very narrow, and they only had those things listed. Unit trust scheme was also included, and it was designed mainly for trust companies. Back in the day, there was a lot of trust companies who were investing clients' money, so the Act was designed specifically for them, and the original holders of financial dealers license were trust companies in town, and some of those trust companies are still in existence today. So the first amendment came into force in 2005, Amendment number 9 of 2005. During that time, the unit trust scheme was removed from the original Act. The unit trust scheme was placed in its own Act. There was a Unit Trust Act, which is actually valid at this point in time, and I don't know if any of you is aware of that, but it was removed from the original I forgot to mention the original name was Prevention of Fraud Investment Act. It wasn't the Financial Dealers Licensing Act. So anyway, 2005 unit trust scheme was removed. And then in 2012, it was the Prevention of Fraud was removed and it was changed and it was called Financial Dealers Licensing Act, and that's the time when everybody was aware that there was something going on in Vanuatu. It was the definition of securities was expanded a little bit during that time in 2012. Then in 2015, we had this Asia Pacific Group of Money Laundering Evaluation. I know a lot of you are aware of that the time. So, but I'm not sure if you are aware of our rating after the evaluation report came out. So 2015, we had the Asia Pacific Group on Money Laundering, which is a subgroup of the FATF, Financial Action Task Force. So Financial Action Task Force actually sets up regional groupings all over the world. And the Asia Pacific grouping is called the Asia Pacific Group on Money Laundering. So they came in and assessed us, and our records are here. Sorry, you can't see it, but out of the 40 recommendations, Vanuatu received 13 non-compliance. That's a big number. 17 partially compliance, 9 largely compliance, and 1 compliance. So we only achieved 1 principle out of the 40 recommendations. That was in 2015. And as a result of that, there was a lot of amendments going on. All of our laws in Vanuatu, the financial laws, including the Banking Act, Insurance Act, and everything else, we had to go through all the amendments to make sure that we address all the FATF 40 recommendations. And it took us around 3 years. We were actually blacklisted during that time. After that assessment, Vanuatu was blacklisted, and that's when all the problems about banking, remittance of funds and everything else came up. And it took us 3 years until 2018 when we were removed from the FATF blacklist. So as a result of that, in 2017, there was a lot of amendment to the Financial Dealers Licensing Act. The definition of EBO becomes, it changed, and now it's sort of like it requires a natural person to be called an EBO. It's no longer corporate. There was also some expansion again in the definition of securities. The fines, if you look through the Financial Dealers Licensing Act, now there's a huge penalties in fines. So that was changed in 2017 in response of the APG assessment. And there was also a definition of managers in the Act, in this amendment in 2017. The Act also introduced application fees. I think before that there wasn't any fees paid. You just apply and you get the license. The requirements for AML, which means that you have to disclose all your source of funds, and the bond was increased from 200,000 to 5 million. Originally, the bond was paid to the Registrar of the Supreme Court, and during this amendment, it was removed from the Registrar of the Supreme Court down to VFSC. Fit and proper requirements were introduced, and the Act also creates supervisory powers to the Commission, which includes on-site inspections, licensing requirements and on-site inspections, and it also includes sharing of information, which means that VFSC can exchange information with other regulators around the world. If there's any case of fraud or money laundering or whatever, VFSC can exchange those information without going to court or without seeking any approval from any person involved. So, and then there was some amendments again in also in 2017. It came in the different form of law. It's a statute law. It introduced the licensing fee. So the licensing fee you're paying now was just introduced in 2017. 2018, still part of the process. We introduced 3 classes of licenses. It's A, B, and C. It also introduced the physical presence requirement. And some of you might remember that in 2018, we did not enforce this law because we could have wiped out the securities market. The Act didn't actually provide for transition period. It says that on this date, you need to have your manager and your office in place. So by that time, nobody was prepared. And we could have canceled all the financial dealers at that point of time, but then we decided that no, we have to go through another amendment, which came in later in 2021. So during the amendment in 2021, it provides for the transition of physical presence. It also includes Class D, which is cryptocurrency. So this morning we spoke about, Loretta was talking about the digital assets, and I can confirm to you that now we have the licensing requirements to license companies who wish to deal in digital assets. That came into force in 2021. So it's open. I can confirm that since 2021 we have received 2 applications. Unfortunately, both applications were not successful. But it's something that anybody can do at this point in time. So we have a graph here showing the number of licenses we have. In 2017, we ran it up to 600, but we had more than 600. And it came down in 2018, it came down to 134. And 2017, that's when VFSC actually established the supervision department. And we issued some guidelines and start doing some proper assessment of applications, so the number dropped down to 134, and it's kind of like steady until 2021 when we went through this transition period. So it dropped a little bit, but not too much. But I think this time it's around 60 plus, probably around 62, 63. Okay, so that's the number of licenses we have. Coming to the implementation of physical presence, there's a lot of challenges we face since 2021. We've been doing it we started in October 2021 up to this point. A lot of challenges we're facing. Common one is the number of Vanuatu who are qualified to manage these companies. It's a big problem for us. We went to the scholarship office and got a list of all the graduates. We went to ESP and collect all the names, but we still have this problem. So that's something that we will discuss at the end of this presentation, so we can find some solution to that. We have problems with office space. It's really hard to find any space in town which is cheap. Bank accounts, as we heard this morning, it's a real problem for the financial dealers to open bank accounts. Insurance, especially professional indemnity cover, that's a real problem, not only for security dealers, but I think the trust and company service providers are facing the same thing. So we will discuss it, but I'll just give my personal opinion. I was telling Matil and Delme this morning that I think if the industry can discuss among themselves and we can come up with a captive insurance for all the security dealers and CTSPs, so at least you can provide your own insurance instead of trying to deal with other insurance company, which is really hard And end of last year, we found out that there was a lot of fraud going on with the financial dealers in terms of insurance placement. It involves a lot of huge amount of money. Our companies were paying for fraudulent insurance in Africa, and VFSC was able to identify it, so we informed all these people to change insurance. That's an issue. We have issues with other government departments as well, especially labor, immigration, FIPA. I think it's basically because of the understanding of, having an international company setting up an office in Vanuatu. So we had to meet with these departments and try to discuss things. But again, it's a real challenge. Some people are still facing problems up to this point. Another challenge we have was a timely assessment of applications. This is a VFSC issue. But we're trying to cope with it. The other problem we're just finding out right now is we have issued probably around 60 licenses, and about 20% of those are still having problems trying to establish physical presence, so the number might reduce again. So if any of you who are agents sitting here, just tell the licenses that they need to be, they need to show commitment and establish office, appoint local people as managers or directors, because we might take regulatory action and remove them from Vanuatu. So opportunities we have, as I said, it creates opportunity of employment for New Vanuatu, and also the companies who are sitting up here, they're providing trainings to New Vanuatu, their own staff, at their own cost. And now it creates a pool of New Vanuatu who can actually understand how to trade using on the securities market. So we thank all of them who are sitting up here. They will actually speak and explain themselves. But it's, they're doing a huge difference here. Of course, government revenue, they're renting office, they're paying for equipments, they're paying for VNBF and everything else as normal local companies. And the physical presence is also create confidence in our market, especially in relation to compliance with international standards. As I've said, we were blacklisted before, and now we're still blacklisted by EU, so it's still a challenge. But we're hoping we can manage it. And as a result of this physical presence requirement and digital asset that we spoke about this morning, we have now secured an expert to come and do a national risk assessment for the country, which will happen end of this year. Is that right? Yeah. So the person we have identified is Rick McDonald. I know the Attorney General and a few other people know him. He used to be the head of the Asia Pacific Group on Money Laundering for some years. From Australia, but he's now migrated and lives in Canada. So he's working with Loretta to do the assessment. We've done a little bit on the cryptocurrency side with Loretta already. VFSC has done it, but we need to incorporate that into a national risk assessment. So that's happening end of this year. We have another assessment coming up by the Asia Pacific Group on Money Laundering in 2015. So we need to prepare ourselves for that. So that's part of the reason why we are forcing all of you to set up office, employ people, because when they come around this time, it's not going to be the last time. This time it's actually a real on-site inspection. I have one slide left, but I will leave that until these people actually speak, and then I want to raise some questions. We want all of us to discuss, especially Mark, your question this morning about bank account. We can discuss that after they have done the presentation. So I will invite Donna from Titan FX, and then Tony from TMGM Group, James from Explo Global, and we have Simon in the white shirt. He's from Solaris Market. Solaris is also one of the main sponsors for today's event. He works with Daphne, and we have Dominic at the end. Dominic is DIRIF. He's from DIRIF, one of the biggest companies in the world. So just for your information, Dominic, at this moment, he's got about 2.5 million clients on his system. Okay, so I'll just leave it to you, Don.
Thank you, moderator. Good afternoon to all of you. While the team is just setting up my PowerPoint, I just thought I'd introduce myself. If you've got the program, please note that I am not Martin St. Hilaire. So I'm representing him for Titan FX this afternoon. So just a little background on myself. I used to be with the VFSC for 20 years. So a lot of the stuff that Joshua was discussing today, that road, I actually walked it with them until I saw the light in 2019 and moved to the private sector. But yeah. So just for my presentation, before I go into the questions that Joshua would like us to go into with regards to how we can move forward, I'm taking the opportunity to introduce Titan FX to everybody who's present. So Titan FX, our vision is we set the benchmark. You might know that we are the largest broker that is situated in Port Vila, Vanuatu at the moment. So we made that as a business decision. We didn't wait for the physical presence requirement to come around when we made that decision to be present in Vanuatu. Our mission is that Titan FX empowers traders. And we do that by having the 3 values, which is we deliver, we empower, and we care. So we try to ensure that we deliver what a platform that is user-friendly for our customers, but we also empower our team to make good decisions and our traders to make investment decisions. And we try to show our care through our customer service. We were founded in 2014, and our head office and majority leadership is based in Port Vila, Vanuatu. We presently have around 30 employees in Vanuatu, and the majority is Ni Vanuatu. We have a variety of specialized expertise in our team, and that ranges from legal, compliance, finance, marketing, people and culture, business analytics, and IT. We also have the largest legal compliance team of 7 people for any financial institution in Vanuatu. So earlier, I think Joshua mentioned opportunities. We believe that one of the main opportunities for the industry in Vanuatu is that we have a very business-friendly regulatory framework. The market for businesses which have restrictions in their own for their offshore clients in their own jurisdictions opens up that market for us here in Vanuatu. And that's due to strict regulatory requirements on their jurisdiction and brings business to our market here. We also know that our industry can improve employment, training and development for our local skilled professionals, and that we can learn from the high standards of the exported services that we bring into the country through that industry. The new physical presence requirements allows us to further filter out bad actors and ensure that the licensees that are not committed to invest and contribute to Vanuatu at a national or social level would not be included. So the robust regulatory framework that we allow for only the most committed brokers will allow the industry to grow and our reputation to, withstand anything that might come in the future. So some of the challenges that we've faced. Effective monitoring of the licenses has always been an issue because it's mostly an offshore center clientele. So everybody is overseas, and it's very hard to monitor or supervise people that are overseas. The Vanuatu listing on the EU blacklist affecting the Vanuatu financial industry. I think Joshua also mentioned that in his presentation. That has had effect on our businesses and also not only our industry but other financial institutions as well. Also the COVID-19 border restrictions. Again, I think Joshua mentioned that also contributed to the delay of the new approach for the physical presence enforcement. We're also a disaster-prone climate. I think the minister mentioned that in his words earlier this morning. It's very hard to come and do development or maintenance of the relevant infrastructure that we need for our business continuity. Also, cybersecurity concerns, also raised by the minister earlier today, with the recent cyber attack to the Vanuatu government information and technology systems. But it's not just with the government that we've seen these attacks. I'm sure that other financial institutions have also been facing similar attacks. Also, the availability of infrastructure to meet the regulatory requirement. Physical presence means you need space. It means you need buildings. You need to have an office. So that's also been a challenge to the licensees because, as you know, Port Vila doesn't have that many office space that we can rent out. And also the capacity of local skilled professionals to meet the personnel requirements for the licensees. I think Joshua also mentioned in his presentation that they've looked at all the universities and looked at all the graduates, and still we needed to find more people. So that's also a challenge that we need to try and meet. So, some ways forward. Today, Vanuatu adheres to international standards of governance and is an active participant in all major global initiatives to fight tax evasion, money laundering, and the financing of terrorism. I think earlier today, when Loretta was doing her presentation, there was a question raised by the Vanuatu University, the Chancellor. And the question was, what other jurisdictions in the region have already implemented or raised the digital assets, virtual currency, virtual assets legislation? And the answer was none, if I'm correct. So we know that Vanuatu has always worked hard to build a regulatory framework that will meet the international standards. So that's something that we've put ourselves to on a standard, and we need to make sure that that's not abused. Vanuatu takes part in the OECD Common Reporting Standards for financial transparency and we are a founding member of the APG, which is the regional body of the Financial Action Task Force. With the guidance of these bodies, the APG, FATF, and OECD, Vanuatu has upgraded its monitoring and regulatory systems as well as its legislation to put them on a par with global standards. I think I mentioned that I walked the walk with VFSC, and while we were trying to get out of that listing, that gray listing, we found that when they came back for the follow-up, they told us that, Vanuatu has actually gone above and beyond with regards to regulatory requirement. So Vanuatu is now at the forefront of global trends towards openness, and its authorities are in a position where we can ensure that there is transparency and there's a balance between transparency and privacy. So traditionally, we catered mostly to an offshore clientele. These are businesses that operate outside of Vanuatu while being licensed in Vanuatu. The renewed governance approach for Vanuatu is actually for these clients to transition from offshore activities and bring onshore export of services. The bringing of the offshore industry back onshore can spur investment in Vanuatu and create jobs, stimulate further development, and support education and training. The financial dealers licensees are now required to open up an office, and these businesses will hire and train Vanuatu to fulfill their relevant positions to meet this license condition. So we need to move forward, but we still need to find the people who have the capacity to do that. So the message we're saying is anyone who wants to benefit from Vanuatu's regulatory and fiscal regime must also contribute to the country, and bring a tangible contribution to the community. The more a business benefits from Vanuatu's regime, the more it's expected to reinvest in the development of the nation. In particular, there must be growth in employment, training, and skill development opportunities brought on by foreign investors. Vanuatu has also invested far too much time and resources in putting its laws, regulations, and institutions on par with the global standards to let bad actors come in and ruin the market for the honest and dedicated participants. The industry must be deeply committed for transparency and fairness, and we know firsthand the devastating effects that weak or lax enforcement can bring to our reputation. So the message that we have here is we understand the need to have transparency to be compliant, but we also need to be able to do our business. So for example, with the new virtual assets legislation that Loretta is working on, we're supportive of that, but we do want to be involved with that. So I guess that's the message I wanted to share. I also have a video I want to share before I close.
Founded in 2014, TitanFX is in the business of leveraged online trading. We're a global broker with roots right here in Vanuatu. We serve sophisticated customers who trade in financial instruments and derivatives, a market that's growing fast. That includes trading contracts for difference on foreign exchange, or FX. That's where our name comes from. After just a few years, we now serve 50,000 customers worldwide. Every day, 5,000 of them use our platforms to make over 100,000 trades. To compete and win in this market, we rely on the latest trading technology, hosted on servers just milliseconds away from Wall Street. And customers love our great customer service, 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, and our competitive pricing. Whether they're in Melbourne, London, Singapore, Hong Kong, or elsewhere, our key partners are just a click away. TitanFX is headquartered in Port Vila with a satellite office in Maiwo. We manage most of our key business functions from here in Vanuatu, including finance and accounting, legal, business analysis, marketing, compliance, and more. TitanFX already employs more than 20 seasoned professionals here in Vanuatu, and the team keeps on growing. Vanuatu has what it takes to compete with any international finance center worldwide. We have guaranteed connectivity through submarine cable and satellite. We have business-friendly regulations and tax laws with strong defenses against financial crime. We're looking to hire emerging talent from our universities. We import skilled workers to fill any gaps. We're doing well here, and we want Vanuatu to do well too. We've been investing more and more time and money in key areas of development. Growing our FinTech Center, investing in our community. FinTech isn't just the future here in Vanuatu, it's all our futures.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, Donna. That was quite insightful, good information. The difference between Donna and I is Donna has the businesses on the ground, but we are just starting. So I'll give my my assessment based on that basis. All right. So yeah. So DMGM is a company based in Australia. Has three sub companies, if you like. And they're right on the corner there, you can see. I know some of you have already, we still got free gifts, free bags and things if you want to help yourself with after the meeting. But we have three trader, one of the company, TradeMax, and the latest one is DLS. We had the approval done just a few weeks ago or last week. So we are a baby in this industry in Vanuatu. However, overseas, it is a big company. And an evidence of that is we're the gold sponsor for the event today. So when you enjoy your lunch, that's because of DMGM. Okay, based on the program is for us to give our feedback on opportunities and challenges. And I'd like to share some of those opportunities based on my observation, why this industry is so important for the country, Vanuatu. And I'll start off by saying this. You know, Vanuatu traditionally has three major industries that drives the economy here, before independence and after independence. Just all the Vanuatu. So what's the first industry that put a lot of us in school? If you can put up your hand, if you agree with me, it's copra. You all right? Put up your hand. I didn't see everybody knock their head, but I didn't see any hands out. Yeah. All right, so that's copra. That's agriculture industry. And then that was before independence, after independence. And in the 90s and 2000 and year 2000, we have the second industry. I guess you might call it tourism. Okay? Tourism is big, and it still is. But that tourism is also evolving. Okay, and recently, another version of agriculture we discover. If you look at the statistics from National Statistics Office and Reserve Bank reports, quarterly economic report, it will tell you all this. Okay, there's nothing new, it's all there. But now, I think we need to start rethinking the business model of Vanuatu, and that's where opportunity comes in. And that opportunity is FTL, or Financial Dealers License, or FinTech. Okay, we live in a technology age these days, so the only way forward is through technology type of businesses. So VFSC got it right on this, and will continue to grow that industry. So that's an opportunity. Another second opportunity I see is the transfer of capital intellect. Capital intellect are referred to the knowledge and skills that you will learn, our local staff will learn from the parent company, companies overseas. You know, there's 60 plus companies that are registered here. So there'll be a lot of knowledge transfer and skills transfer that's new. And it's what will drive the economy forward. Yeah, so I see capital in terms of knowledge capital. That's the economy we are all in now these days. So it's really important, it's really good to see that the VFSC has set the standard, the benchmark for all these finance companies. They need to have graduates at the entrance level, which is management level, the first staff. So that's a good foundation for this nation. Okay, we're building up skills and knowledge for Vanuatu. Another opportunity is creating a lot of employment in our country, and that's a big need. And this FTLs are answering that solution. They're working together with the government, through revenue and also creating employment for our young generation who are our future for this nation. And also the finance industry, it has the whole ecosystem has a spider web of benefits. You know, when we have investors coming in under this industry, they sleep in hotels that you're helping tourism directly. you're helping tourism directly when, they check into your hotels. They use they use a taxi, they're helping the tourism industry. They eat in a nice restaurant, again, inject funds in that industry. And if they want to start, currently some are building, we're renting a lot of offices in town, or we're running out now, we heard earlier today, but if some of these companies decide to build, they now build their own offices, so you're contributing to the construction industry. So it's not finance in isolation, it's finance inclusive of the whole economy, and there are not many businesses that can do that. Yes. So that's why this is a very important sector, that type of business industry that we really need to go behind and support through the government, through legislation, and needs, like the big word for today, as Loretta said earlier, is collaboration. We need to collaborate, okay? The Reserve Bank, FIU, Immigration, Customs Department, all the key stakeholders. We've got to make this very a seamless process, and it's easy, a one-stop shop. Because one thing in Vanuatu we champion of is making life difficult for some people. We have to be honest with that. Okay, so it's really important to make it nice and easy and simple, that, not when investors come here, they have only 1 or 2 days to get things done and go back. And in the old system, that's just dropping application. You still have to wait until next month you get approval. But we want to make sure that as we grow this industry, which has so much potential and opportunity, we have to make the process as simple as possible. Okay? Some of the challenges we've already been highlighted. One is this international company to open accounts within the bank. And I work in the bank for 20 years, ANZ. I understand, the compliance, the risk assessment and all that. But none of these international companies, they have rigid or even more compliance checks that they do than many cases. So it's important that we have to work together. The bank, the industry, we have to come to compromise, find a solution. Okay, we can't keep operating as silos, and we understand that, from a message this morning, it's happening. Whether technology is changing, whether we are ready with our legislation or policies or not, but the change wave is coming. So it's really important that all the key stakeholders, they really have to work together to make this thing work. And for everybody, and the benefits that I've mentioned, it spills over to the whole community, and not just specifically in the finance department. So, and I think since we have the Reserve Bank here, so this gives opportunity to say a few words about Reserve Bank. Reserve Bank is the key regulator for financial institutions. Please, if you can help the banks, get the Banking Association, come together, find a solution on how we can, open accounts to help these investors put the money in, invest in here. It has so much potential to grow this economy of this country. All the other industries have highlighted, whether tourism, agriculture, or construction, they're all exposed to natural disaster every year. But for fintech companies, there is no natural disaster that you have to really pump money into it, because it's the ownership of the company itself. Government hasn't just to spend any money into it, so that's a big difference. Those are some challenges. Also include the insurance. Very important to find a solution to that. At the moment, we have to reach overseas for insurance cover for businesses that are registered here. And I think Loretta referred to a good case. I think Dominic Republic in Caribbean, one of those countries that, once they've set up the legal framework, with 60,000 people, they've grown that business to 1.2 billion or something. So, that tells you the potential of what we're talking about this afternoon. So, insurance for me, finance, account opening through the banks, and collaboration between all the stakeholders. I think if we all join hands together, we can do anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I'll ask Simon from Solaris.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to speak, and to the Commission and the Minister for coming today. Just a little background about myself. My name's Simon Hodgkiss. I'm the part owner and director of Solaris. I'm also part owner and one of the executives of the Axia Group based in Sydney, who's got businesses all over the world and a number of licenses in the UK, Australia, New Zealand and the Middle East. I've been in the industry for 25 years, learnt my trade in the UK and spent the last 15 years in Australia. And I've been out to, this is my second visit to Vanuatu now. Our first time was 6 months ago. And I'm pleased to say there's been a huge amount of development just in the last 6 months since we've first established our presence here in Vanuatu. Over the last 6 months, we've made great progress, and I've seen great progress here. I'm afraid I don't have a fancy presentation, I'll do my best. But I'll just concentrate a bit on the opportunities here. So, Solaris wants to target the whole of the Southeast Asian region from Vanuatu, and we see that as an enormous opportunity for us. It's a growth area for us. There's enormous opportunity there, and we do aspire to have the kind of presence on the ground that Titan have. Perhaps it takes a bit of time to catch up. We'll have to find the space to put people, but you know, we are committed to invest people on the ground here, and we've made a start. I'll concentrate a little bit on some of the challenges we've faced. Since the biggest one, obviously, is the banking side. Banking for the international company is challenging, and we've managed to find one bank so far, but we need more. Also for the local company, local banking facilities are difficult to find. We've not managed to solve that problem yet. We're speaking to a number of banks, but we just simply don't have a bank for our onshore business at the moment, which causes just practical difficulties. The main other issue is really on the staffing side. We've been very lucky to find Daphne and put her in place, and our other staff are in flight and joining us shortly. And we've put an enormous amount of investment into training Daphne and getting into a great place to be able to work with the business. But the truth is we still need support from overseas people, and it's been very, very difficult getting visas and permits and business licenses in place. It's taken us a really long time. We're not quite there yet. And it's holding us back, and it just means that we can't progress as quickly as we would like. The other slight challenge, we've overcome it, but is the onshore offshore model. Having an onshore company and having an offshore company, it just makes it a little bit more challenging. There's a bit more work to do, a lot more admin to do, coordinating between those two entities and understanding it properly has been a bit of a challenge to us. We've got through it, but it's taken us some time. The staffing is challenging. Finding staff with experience is hard, but we are finding staff, and we're investing a lot of time training them, so for the future benefit of both us and for the business here in Vanuatu. So we continue to do that, and myself and other staff come out here regularly, and we also staff occasionally come over to Australia to be trained as well. So we're putting a lot of investment into that. Someone's already mentioned the insurance as well. We've managed to find a solution to that simply because we had insurance in our Axia group that we could leverage from, but we were caught up in the same issues that everyone else was caught up in previously. Just returning to the opportunity, they're the main challenges we face. I reiterate that we see this as a huge opportunity to target the region. We really want to invest here in the future and put people on the ground. We just need some support from the Commission and for other bodies to help us with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Tiffany?
afternoon, everybody. I think the listing by Vla looks at Nemblomi, Daphne Sumsum. I'm actually going by the name of Daphne Lee now. I'm the Ni Vanuatu person in Solaris office. But I'll talk on my experience because I'm not in this business long enough to, as per my colleague, I think Titan FX has been on the ground for a few years and we've only just started. Our challenges since I joined office in 28th of December of last year, there were a lot of challenges, and I was recruited. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, to be honest. It's a new field for a lot of us. It's very challenging. I was overwhelmed by the experience. I'm still overwhelmed because it's, as we're all finding out, it's a new thing that we're getting ourselves into. But as Loretta said this morning, and it's something that I think is true, it's something that's coming. And Yumio Semolman Vanuatu, we can't stop it. It's here. We've got our kids. We've got babies with mobiles in their hands every day, and that's what this generation is growing up with technology. The challenges that I faced being the person on the ground for Solaris Services Limited has been mentioned by Joshua and everybody else. Donna, they've been here. Johnny has mentioned that. It's just the fact that the government departments aren't in harmony. The first instance when I joined, we got the registration from Vanuatu Financial Service Commission, but then VPA rejected our application, making it difficult to get our business license, get electricity from UNELCO for our office. VPA is the main certificate for a local company or for an international company to open doors in the country. So when it got rejected, we couldn't move any further than that. So these are the challenges that I think is up for discussion. How now departments, Plumilo government, is our work together to make it seamless. Immigration department, labor department. This is, as everyone's stating, it's an opportunity for our kids. Maybe this can open doors to not allowing qualified people to turn towards RSC for better employment benefits. It's something that we should consider and maybe work together to help our people stay in the country and work with better wages. I think I really don't have much to say. Every challenges we're facing now, these FDL companies are facing, we're all facing the same thing. As Simon said, we still don't have a bank account, and we're trying to open a bank account for the local company, not the international company. That's hard. And this is two separate companies we're talking about. So it would be great if the bankers can answer a few questions for us this afternoon. We do have questions for the banking system because we're still struggling to get an account. I don't get paid. I get paid through an agent because we can't open a bank account. Even to register our VNPF, we needed the VPA. We needed the business license. So even though this law was approved and set forth into motion, there were other aspects that wasn't in harmony with this the law. So everyone and everybody in other departments that we can all discuss this and maybe find a better solution forward. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I think this is the advantage of going last because most of my friends here already, stated everything. But I still want to highlight some things. But maybe let me introduce myself first. I'm Dominic. I'm the representative of Deriv here as the local director. Before going here, I was in Dubai, Deriv Dubai. Then I traveled here. About Deriv is in the industry for 23 years now. And our core values are customer focus, teamwork, competence, and integrity. And that's also what we're trying to share with the community here. We are in 20 countries, and through our FDL license, we'll be able to allow our clients to be able to trade financial instruments in CFDs and binary options and multipliers. I would say the challenges that we have experienced here are the same as what my friends here experience. But I would like to highlight again the banking. Until now, we don't have yet a bank account. We've been struggling for 3 months now. We have applied our applications 3 months ago. I think it will be able to, to work together with the bank so that we can speed up the process, so that we can finance our operations here in Vanuatu. One of the minor challenges as well is, I would say, the exposure of our people with technology. But that's also an opportunity for us to be able to train them. And so one of the reasons that we are here in Vanuatu is to actually provide career opportunities as well for new Vanuatus. And we are actually very happy to be part of the force that gives an option to Vanuatu people to, to stay in their country, be with their families, and also to have a good job. I think that will be all from me. I kept it short, but thank you.
Thank you, Dominic. I'll ask James to come and say a few words before we close.
Hi, everyone. A lot of you know me, some of you don't. I'm James Hudson. I'm part of the Titan FX family with Donna, so I said I'd go last so you didn't keep hearing about Titan FX. I won't go through the history of Titan FX. Donna's pretty well covered that, actually very well covered that. I'll focus on the challenges. And a bit about me is that I'm an ex-banker, a little bit like Loretta. Many years in banking, about 30 years in banking, before I saw the light and jumped out. But bankers are very conservative by nature, and they have to be because they're highly regulated and they're holding your deposits. So you don't want them to go out of business. So they're very risk averse. But if there's money in it, they'll do the business as long as they can manage the risks. And I think one of the challenges with the FDL sector in Vanuatu is none of the banks understand it. They've never taken the time to understand it because they haven't seen the money in it, because there hasn't been many FDLs in Vanuatu. So they haven't seen that it's worthwhile them spending the money on understanding the nature of the business, understanding how it all works, and understand that they can actually make money out of it. So I think that's an opportunity which has just become very clear to me today now that we're all here together, the FDL licenses, because this is the first time we're all together, or a lot of us are together in one room. So I'd like to thank the VFSC, Brannon, the Commissioner, for bringing today this organisation. I think sometimes these things seem so obvious, but when you're in your day-to-day life and doing your jobs and trying to make money and trying to make your company successful, you don't sort of take a step back and see the big picture. And that's the usefulness of these forums, and I can really see that now. And I would encourage maybe all of us in the FDL sector based in Vanuatu to maybe we can engage with the banks and show them how much money they can potentially make and help them to understand our business model, because they do not understand it. They may or may not do it, at the end of the day. they're not masters of their own destiny. They maybe seem like masters of our own lives because we get our mortgages from them. So we have to thank them and be happy. But they're not in control of the payments in and out of the country. They are dependent on offshore banks, which we call correspondents. So whenever you have money coming in and out of Vanuatu in foreign currency, in fact, it doesn't actually come into Vanuatu. It's all offshore. All the banks have bank accounts with other banks, and they're called correspondent banking accounts. And globally, there's been a trend over the last 5 years of de-risking, or debanking is another word for it. Compliance fines have been huge. So all the banks are just looking around the world at the different kind of business lines that they've got, and also the countries, and they're just going, nah, not enough money, too high risk, or we don't understand enough about it, but it's too small, so let's not bother. So that's been one of the challenges for the Pacific. A lot of the Pacific countries are being debanked. You can't get a direct USD bank account for a bank here. It's generally through another bank. It's because the US banks, they're massive, they couldn't be bothered with Vanuatu, it's too far. And the compliance fines are huge, and the reputation risk is huge, so they just don't do it. So that becomes a challenge for, say, the FDL sector in Vanuatu, but maybe if there's enough money in it for them, we can sit down and have a chat with them as a group amongst the FDL mirroring the FATF list. Then in 2018, when we got off the FATF list, which was a fantastic achievement for Vanuatu, introduced a lot of legislation which helped to support us getting off that list. The EU then introduced their own criteria at that time, which was unfortunate, which meant we didn't get off the EU list. So we're still on an AML CTF list for the EU as high risk. Now, that has a massive impact because all the banks don't really care whether it's an EU list or a FATF list. You're on a list, so you're high risk. So then let's not do business with banks in that country, and payments in that country are more difficult to do. It also scares away foreign investors. And this is one of the challenges, is that at the government level here, they see the impact of, say, the citizenship program and the issues with that. As soon as that tap is turned off, they see the financial impact of that because it's visible. You know what you're getting 1 month, then it's turned off, then you can see what you're not getting. It's very visible. But the opportunity cost associated being on the EU list is massive. You could say it's much more than the citizenship scheme. It's the lost opportunity, it's the higher cost of doing business in Vanuatu. So we would, as a, let's say, an opportunity and a challenge going forward would be to work with Vanuatu, to the government and anyone else out there to get us off that list. So I'd like to just put that forward as it should be one of the main priorities of the government, is getting the country off that list. And it's a major impact. We've got a great regulatory environment for the FDL sector. Over the years, you've seen the FDL sector started at 600 when it first introduced the legislation. And over time, the legislation's been refined. There's been more licensing conditions put in to weed out, as we say, as Donna said, the bad actors. Within any market, you've got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, tier 6, however low you want to get players. And that's the quality of things. If you have a licensing regime with some good conditions in there, with a physical presence, which is fantastic, you start to weed out or become less attractive to those that aren't really serious about using the jurisdiction. And from a reputational perspective, our FDL sector is dependent on our reputation. If Loretta used the example this morning of FDX in the Bahamas, they spent many years of building up their reputation, and it was just one bad example, unfortunately, that undid that, which has given Bahamas a bad reputation. We've also seen with SVG, St. Vincent's and Grenadines, they've come under a lot of pressure. They've also got an FDL license regime there, or kind of. And they've had to tighten up their regulations there because they were just too lax, and they got under pressure there. So their regulator there is playing catch-up. And we're very fortunate here that we're not playing catch-up. Our regulators introduce good licensing criteria, which also evolve over time, which is, it's part of the challenge, and it's an opportunity that you have an evolving regulatory environment which enables business, but at the same time is sensible. Loretta used that word this morning, and I highly relate to that. It's sensible. So it's not over-regulated, it's not under-regulated, but fosters business, good business. And the FDL sector is good business. It's massive. And linking into what Johnny was saying, Johnny was talking about no copra. You go back to the old days, copra. If you look wind forward now today, what have we got? It's copra's still pretty good, hey Johnny? Yeah. So we haven't really evolved that much in terms of our economic diversification. We're concentrated in agriculture, we're concentrated in tourism. Both those get wiped out with natural disasters, and then you get put back 3 years by the time you recover from things. It takes time to recover. Tourism, no, it's still recovering after COVID and the disasters and the cyclones. Agriculture gets whacked with cyclones. It takes a number of months to grow back again. We need to diversify our economy, and we've been talking about it for years. The FDL sector is that opportunity to diversify. It's massive. It's the global market. It has nothing to do with what happens in Vanuatu, which is the perfect thing. Like any business, you want diversity of revenue streams, which are all independent of each other. That's what the FDL sector can do for Vanuatu. So it's a massive opportunity for the country to diversify. The benefits to the economy as a whole are jobs. Massive number of jobs can be created. If I look at the recent history, I've been with Titan FX now for 3 years. Just 3 years. When I started there, we had 6 people. We're wind forward 3 years, we now have 30 people approximately. And we actually had, we basically had an office at that stage that looked a little bit like a shower. It was just white tiles everywhere, and it was just, wasn't that nice? It was clean, it was nice, but we've now got fantastic office. We've built that up over the last 2 years. It takes time to get where we are now. It's good 3 years of investing in time and effort, in property development, in people development. And that's another challenge that we've all got, is people, finding the right skills. With the people, I'll give you an example. We're trying to find skilled, well, actually it doesn't have to be skilled, IT people. So we're looking for interns, that we're willing to train, willing to put the time and the effort in skilling the Vanuatu up to take those jobs. Believe it or not, we're finding it hard to find people. Peter over there, the guy in the white shirt with the green and black trimmings. He's our global CTO. So he's based here in Vanuatu. He's got great skills. He wants to find more people for his team here. In the last couple of years, in Titan FX, we've got IT guys in Melbourne, we've got IT guys in Philippines. But we're trying to build up IT guys here in Vanuatu, but it's a challenge. We're willing to put the time and effort in to train them up, but it's a challenge to find them. So if you know anyone that wants an IT job that's got good skills, see Peter. He's recruiting. Yeah. And the model we're using there is we're happy to bring someone on with some basic IT skills, give them a 3-month internship, see how they go, and if they're good, they can get a job afterwards. So that's kind of the model where we've got to at the moment, because we couldn't find anyone with the right skills. We don't want to poach off the other institutions here, because the labour market is just too small. But we want to create new jobs too. So I'm just sharing that because that's an opportunity. Titan FX is doing that. Other FDLs are willing to do that as well. Now you can hear Daphne there mention that she's just started in the sector. That's great. It's a new opportunity. So that shows you the real impact of this potential sector. Other opportunities. I think I pretty much covered it, huh? Like, it's massive. Like, it can change the face of this economy. You look at Cyprus. Cyprus is a good one. Google it. Now you go back to have a look at a picture of Cyprus 5 years ago, and you have a picture of Limassol in Cyprus. Have a look at 5 years ago, some pictures of Cyprus. There wasn't much there. You wind forward now, the FDL sector there is huge. And that's just in 5 years, because they've got a good enabling environment. So that's one of our opportunities with the regulator here is to continue making sure that our environment is conducive to business, but also weeds out the bad actors. It's a sensible level of regulation. It's also, if I tap into and link it to Loretta's presentation this morning on virtual assets, we've got currently 3 classes of FDL licenses here, which basically allow you to do normal FX trading, but then there's a little bit of CFDs, options, derivatives in there as well. That sort of pretty much covers, and commodities, covers the first 3 license classes. That 4th license class for virtual assets or digital assets isn't tapped yet, which is also another massive opportunity. And that opportunity means more companies like us up here, but who do a different line of business. It's a little bit different to what we do. So suddenly it's not just about brokers, FX brokers. It actually becomes more about exchanges, which are also massive. So suddenly you get diversification within the FDL sector. So if we can tap into that as well, and it's great to hear that they're looking at making that Class D license or moving it out into another legislation of its own so that it gets the right focus, so we can have sensible level of regulation, but at the same time foster that business and attract those guys here. And it is about attracting. At Titan FX and within, let's say, our group, we've got licenses across 5 countries. We're in Vanuatu, Mauritius, Seychelles, BVI, and I'm missing one. I'm in SVG, St. Vincent Grenadines. And we've gone through the regulatory processes, the application processes in all those countries. So we've got a good experience with what it's like to get a license. Vanuatu is great. I heard some criticism earlier. The VFSC was a little bit critical of themselves, saying, oh, we need to speed up our process. Okay, you can always get better, but you're pretty good when we benchmark you against the other regimes. It's also not just about the application process. It's about the legislation, being conducive to business, not overly restrictive with leverage requirements, advertising, and all the other conditions that can go into the legislation. So there's a balance there. We do need to protect investors. And that links back to our reputation risk. It is a high-risk business, trading. So it's not for everyone. So we need to make sure that as an industry, we do the right thing by people. And I'll link it back to one of our values about caring. It's not about just taking people's money and hoping that they're not going to trade successfully. So it's about making sure that people trade intelligently and not offer the product to people who don't understand it. But there is a massive opportunity within the sector. So I'd just like to leave you with that thought. Thank you.
Thank you, James. We will have one video from TMGM. They want to show us the video. I don't know how long it takes, probably less than a minute. And then we will go out for tea, coffee break. And then we want all of you to come back here so we can discuss the way forward. We'll have all these people coming back up in front, and then we'll discuss way forward. We want to have your views and also your questions. And then we will close. So can we have the video? Thank you very much. We will now proceed to raise some valid questions, some of which we have already discussed. I guess the main question is, what is the way forward from now? After this meeting, what are we going to do to address some of the issues that we have been discussing? Next one. So I have here the question of what is the way forward? First question is whether we have the political will to do what we want to do. And I think the minister has assured us this morning that the government is on our side. I raise this because all these people up here, they want to make sure that we have commitment from the government. We cannot address them as financial institutions or security dealers or other government departments. It has to come from the government. So we have FATF, APG, EU, OECD, IOSCO. For your information, we are just now completing our questionnaire to become associate member of IOSCO, which means that probably by the end of this year, VFSC will start applying IOSCO standards to the supervision of security dealers. That's probably another step. Okay, so I think the first question, we have the commitment from the government. The legislation, this morning we discussed, Loretta was discussing the digital asset or virtual asset, and Attorney General has confirmed that progress on the drafting is ongoing at this stage. But then we have other issues as well. Probably Loretta can also, if you have any questions, you can ask Loretta. Other issues including DeFi, NFTs, CBDCs, stable coins, and some of these products are actually central. They have to be managed by the Reserve Bank or the central bank because they are actually back to the actual fiat currency, which is actual money, whereas some other products can be handled by VFSC. But if we're talking about CBDCs or stable coins, that's something that it has to be addressed by the central bank. Bank accounts, that's something that everybody has raised. So we want to open the floor. We want to have some ideas of what do you think we should do. I mean, we've tried all our best, but there might be some people who in here who have some good ideas. So we wanted to give your views. We have some positive comments from James earlier on. Insurance, I have stated my proposed solution for a captive insurance, but you know all of you have some good ideas, so you can come up with some nice ideas here. Qualification of New Vanuatu, that's another thing. Question is, can trainings be offered through the National University of Vanuatu or anybody else, or probably the FMA, Financial Market Association, whether that is something that you would want to consider going forward. Cybersecurity, especially when we're moving into digital currencies. I've put TCIO here, but I'm not sure whether they're here. But we need some technical people who can give us some advice in this area. The role of the Financial Market Association. I think the association of the securities providers is very essential in a way that you can actually create your own code of conduct and probably have a first step where you can assess your own members as to who can actually enter the market in Vanuatu. We don't want, like we said, any unwanted people coming in before it comes to VFSC. I'm just putting these ideas. When it comes to digital assets, other areas that we need to consider is telecom services. I understand from the IMF report we had recently, Vanuatu coverage is about, I think it's 70%. So if we're going to use, this thing, whether we have the capacity for the whole country to be able to use this, that's another thing. Yes, I think internet providers is another issue whether, are they reliable? Are they okay at this stage where we can manage, digital activities? I don't know, I'm not an IT person or, I don't understand it, but some of you can give us some idea. So I'll just leave the floor open. We have our experts sitting up here in front. If you want to ask any specific questions, you can ask them. On the regulatory side, you can ask me or Loretta, Commissioner is here. But when it comes to specialized areas in the products they offer, these are the experts up here in front. So, okay, I'll just leave the floor open. Mathilde?
Thanks, Joshua. So I have a question as a registered agent and assisting clients basically creating their company here and obtaining the license. So it's more a kind of an operational question. I think all of you in front have the onshore-offshore model, where you have both a local company and an international company. That's not the way Law Partners has been doing things, and we have some struggles, but I think up to now it's been quite okay. But it seems that the struggle we face are the same you face with the onshore company as well, like banking and other things. So I was wondering, do you have any other examples or any other suggestions maybe on how to deal with that? And I'm not talking only about banking, because I think there's several other things to talk about when it relates to banking. But for instance, VNPF. So generally we'd have to present VIPA for foreign investor as well as business license. In a case of an international company, we won't have that. So we are in the process of dealing with that for our clients, so we don't know what the outcome will be, but I was wondering, how does that affect also the onshore-offshore model? And do you have any suggestions on how we can work that through?
Thank you, Mathilde. Any of you have any experience in this?
That one's better. Matilda, I'm not sure I understood the question 100%, but I'll go with something. At Titan FX, we have an onshore-offshore model, and for the rest of the room, that means that our offshore part is our financial dealer's license is owned by an international company, and the onshore part is a local company that employs all our staff. And we did that at the start out of necessity, because we want to be a good corporate citizen and do the right thing and pay our staff VNPF. And international company, we couldn't get a VNPF number for an international company, so we just found the path of least resistance and set up a local company that employs our staff, and then we pay our staff through that and pay VNPF, get a VNPF number. That's sort of the background on how we ended up with that structure.
But reacting on that, for instance, we've had an FDL licensee that had a work permit since 2017 or 18, and before this was actually discussed by VFFC with like, immigration and labor. So I guess what I'm saying is if we talk to the right person, or if we expose the case properly, or with the help of the regulator, etc., we can probably do these things. I was just wondering, do you find, I guess my question is, do you find any advantages? How much easier do you think it is to have the onshore-offshore model?
We set it up a number of years ago, so now it just works. Yeah. It was the path of least resistance. Yes, it does introduce more complexity, and I think Simon here mentioned that you have to create another company and you have to do more admin for it, and it does increase the cost a little bit, but you can outsource that and just get someone to do the paperwork for that. We didn't spend any other time on that. We just focusing on business instead.
But that doesn't, I mean, really going back to banking now, it seems that the issue remains for not only for FDLs but for other of our international clients or even local clients that have an international company being the shareholder. We find, and I've spoken with other people in the industry, it seems that it's for everyone the same issue, that if an international company is in the mix somehow, basically that's a no from most of the banks. And so how do we move forward from that? I guess that's the main question of the day. It doesn't want you to talk anymore.
Power? Oh no, it's gone. Path of least
resistance. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have a solution. We don't have a solution for that one.
Is that okay? Yeah, this one. Hello, can you hear me? Oh, great, perfect. Yeah, I was saying that other places that that AXI has licenses, there's no onshore-offshore model. There's one entity. That entity holds a license. That entity can employ people. If visas are required, then that entity can get the visas for their staff. And that works well. It's simpler. You know, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have any disadvantages to staff. The challenge here is, as you say, for the banking side of things, if you mix those two things together, is it going to make it harder for banking? Well, we're already finding it hard to bank. So, you know, it doesn't solve the banking issue, but it does simplify things on the ground.
Thank you, Simon.
Sorry, I'll just add on to that. Within the Finance Centre Association, we've been discussing for a number of months combining the International Companies and the Local Companies Act. And we've working with the VFSC, we've given industry support that that's the way we want to go. So the VFSC are looking into combining those, but like anything, it will take a bit of time to go through the drafting of legislation and then get it through Parliament. So it's probably still a year away, if you go through that process. That would be the longer term solution. The shorter term one, find the path of least resistance. Send money from the offshore company structure that's your client would already have, which would probably have the same beneficial owners as the Vanuatu-based company. So once you clarify that with the bank, that it's the same beneficial owners, they'll go, okay, they're sending it to themselves. So that's another way around it. Instead of sending it to the international company and then putting it to the local company, that could be an option for you.
Thank you, James. Mark?
Thank you, Joshua. I go back to banking and the banking situation in Vanuatu, and it's a discussion I briefly had with the Minister of Finance just a few minutes ago, and it directs back towards John Harahuri in the National Bank's position, and we've also got a representative ANZ, I see. But we have a legislative framework in Vanuatu that provides a banking license issued by the government of Vanuatu, regulated by the Reserve Bank of Vanuatu. We have FDL licenses issued by basically the government of Vanuatu, administered and regulated by the VFSC. I suggest that the government of Vanuatu has got to be able to have some influence over the licensees, being the banks, to do banking business with other regulated and licensed organisations and entities that have come under the regime of the government of Vanuatu. It's something I'd be pleased to take up with the Minister at a subsequent date, but I'd like to get the opinion or the observations of John, ANZ, of how they can sort of walk down the street with their head held high when they won't do bloody banking business. It's simple that we have the regulators, the VFSC, go through a rigorous system of checking the credentials, doing the due diligence of these FDLs, and other types of licensees, but we're focused on FDLs right now. But so why should we allow the banks to retain their banking license if they don't do banking business with regulated organisations? Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Your point is noted. We will discuss with the Minister later on.
I know Mark didn't address that question to me, but as an ex-banker, I'll give some insights into that. We can legislate whatever we want locally and force the banks to do it. They may stay within the country, or they may decide to relinquish their license over time or scale down the business as a result of such a decision. But the big impact will be that if we force the banks to bank everyone in Vanuatu, and that's the high-risk sectors, they may lose their correspondent banking accounts. And so what that will mean is the rest of the economy will lose their correspondent banking accounts. So it means Vanuatu will be cut off from sending AUD, USD, sending, receiving any foreign currency. Maybe we could get some other currencies out there that are not so useful, but it wouldn't be, I would suggest it's not the best route for us to go down. It would not be, in my opinion, the best thing for the Vanuatu economy as a whole. But I do empathise with the frustration, even as an ex-banker, Mark, but now I'm in the FDL sector. I do empathise with it. There are potentially other solutions. We can't control that outcome. A potential solution could be we form our own bank rather than be dependent on others. We would need the support of the Reserve Bank, of course. They issue domestic licenses. We could ask for a limited banking licence. So we're not asking them to change any legislation or anything like that, but we just use the existing Financial Institutions Act. Ask for a domestic banking licence to bank the high-risk sectors, so the FDL sector. We only bank the FDL sector, we only pay employees, only bank employees. So we're not putting, let's say, the general community deposits at risk, which is what the Reserve Bank is worried about, which is fine. Then through the FDL sector, we without ringing our bell too much, we are experts when it comes to payments. We are so used to finding the path of least resistance with payments. We at Titan FX have over 30 different payment providers and ways to get money and send money because it's difficult to get normal banking accounts. They're all legitimate ways, but they cost money because they're not.
Come here.
Yeah, I think we've got battery issues. It increases the cost of doing business, and it also makes Vanuatu difficult as a jurisdiction, which doesn't help us attract other businesses, and particularly FDL licenses. But that's an outcome we could potentially control ourselves without harming, let's say, the rest of the economy. The other banks can bank whoever they want, but we can form our own bank and do a limited domestic license. I would suggest that would be maybe plan B if the banks, after we have a chat with them and talk about the potential money that they can raise as a group. And if we can't convince them with that, then maybe we go plan B, do our own banking license. The FDL sector, it's a very financially strong sector. We could easily capitalise a bank and start a bank. It's not really our core business, but we could do it. And we could actually make payments in and out of Vanuatu quite easy too, through alternate payment providers. There's also the opportunity, it links in with the whole discussion this morning of virtual assets and the Class D license. So under a Class D license, you can set up an exchange, a digital exchange. So under that, we could do issue a stable coin. So it would just mean a Vaatu-backed digital currency. In effect, we already have that in Vanuatu. All the banks already digitise the currency. So every time you do a transfer on your phone, on internet banking from one account to another, it's a digital transfer. Every time you do a transfer with MyVatu or DigiCash or Vanuatu Post Quick Pay, that is a digitised version of the Vatu. It's a stable coin, but it's just using different technology behind it. Stablecoin is the same thing, but is using blockchain. We already have practical examples in this country where the Reserve Bank is okay with doing digitised Vatu. So we could do our own digitised Vatu on the chain, which we'd call blockchain. Sorry, the stablecoin. So you do that, plus a domestic license, and all of a sudden you've got a new way of getting money in and out of Vanuatu and banking high-risk sectors and removing the dependencies on the overseas correspondent banks. And then it reduces our dependency also on the EU AML list, which is very difficult to get off. And we've been on that since 2016, for example. It's not changing tomorrow. It'd be faster to do all this than get off that list. Anyway, that's it.
Have you discussed this with the... can you not hear me? Hello? Okay, so your suggested solutions sound quite valid, and it seems like you've given pretty much good thought to these solutions. Have you discussed it with others in the industry? Have you maybe presented it to the parties that make these decisions? What was the feedback? What was the outcome of those suggestions?
Yeah. There's 24 hours in the day. I try to sleep 8, and we've got our core business as well. We're not really in that business. We would like someone else to go do it. But it is a solution. If we have to do it as a sector, that could be an opportunity for us. We haven't really got together as a sector, and no, again, I'll get back to the VFSC. Thanks for bringing us together, particularly a lot of the licence holders. But that could be an opportunity. The Financial Markets Association represents the financial dealers. It's still, let's say, a developing institution. It's been there for maybe 2 years max. Matilde will know the exact age of that, but it's been there 2 years max. We need more membership there. If we get more membership, then we can maybe get more support for these kind of ideas. So the membership-wise, there's 15 members at the moment. There's one more going through, apparently, and there's 60 licensed financial dealers in Vanuatu. So we've got a bit of way to go to get more membership in there, but if we get more membership in the body, then we can find more time to work on these, let's say, more structural issues. But yeah, it's a bit hard to juggle everything.
Sorry, I didn't mean that just you particularly, but...
No, I understand that, yeah.
Just considering your possible solutions, I was wondering if you have spoken to anybody and what was their take on it, and is it something that we can actually put towards somebody or some people or an active body that can maybe look into it? Because as you mentioned, and my limited knowledge, it could maybe be a quicker
Yeah.
solution.
Part of the challenge is that, and the Reserve Bank is fully aware of this, and they've got a project to review the Financial Institutions Act. I don't know the timing of it, but maybe someone from the RBV might be able to give us some timing, shed some light on that. But the Financial Institutions Act only has one option, which is a banking license. It's in this day and age where you have the disintermediation of financial services, which is just basically means you cut up all the banking services and anyone can do part of that. So you look at practical realities in the Vanuatu economy now. You've got MyCash, DigiCash, QuickPay. They're all doing some part of the banking service, which is payments. You've got number one currency doing payments and FX. You've got some of the smaller financial cooperatives out there doing lending. So it's sort of they're all doing parts of banking services, but not doing the whole thing. Our legislation with the Financial Institutions Act, part of the reform of that, the idea is to introduce some, let's say, other classes of licenses, which encourages innovation, but at the same time limits the risk to the broader community, because that's the central bank's job. And it's sandbox. It's that sandbox concept. So you allow some innovation. With innovation, things fail. So not everything works all the time. So you've got to have some fail-safe in there, and you do that by creating the sandbox environment, limiting that risk to the broader community, but still fostering innovation. So the Reserve Bank have that on their list to do. That would provide the enabling legislation for these kind of things as well. So that has to happen at the central bank. They are working on it, but they might be able to shed more light on the timing for that. We have had discussions, but it takes a while for an idea to sort of move forward. Technology and understanding technology and creating that awareness of the particularly new technology like stablecoin, because it's the same tech that cryptocurrency uses. There's a lot of fear about that, but that fear, a lot of that fear arises from not knowing. So it takes time to educate, increase the awareness, to then realise that okay, it's okay to do that. So yes, we are talking to people, trying to sell the idea. We'd love someone to pick up the idea because it's a great business model, but it takes time.
All right. My response or comment is not in any relation to what question Mark asked and what they asked. Just an introduction. I'm Minibani, the acting CEO for VIPA. I would like to give a response, just a comment and feedback on what was presented as challenges, as we're in the way forward part of the presentations and what we can do to move forward with FDL registrations and licenses in Vanuatu. I agree wholeheartedly with the comments on harmonization within the government departments. That is a must. We are revisiting the one-stop shop concept, which I know a lot of you, there goes a whistle from Mark behind, a lot of you have heard in the past. It's a long story, and it does take a long time for the government to get things done, especially in terms of registrations and processes, issuing licenses, giving certificates. FDL is a whole new concept, and I can confidently say that for VIPA, Labour Immigration. The board of the Vanuatu Foreign Investment Promotion Agency has all these representatives on board as a way forward for challenges, especially with conduciveness to creating a conducive business environment for not just FDL financial dealers licenses only, but for investors on the whole. I believe it's been long overdue for this harmonization to take place. What I would like to suggest as a way forward is for VFSC as the lead agency in this spectrum of discussions to take this awareness further. We've had a lot of discussions in the past, and one earlier this year which clarified a lot of issues for VIPA, and we understand that FDLs do go through a rigorous process with VFSC alone. So I believe our processes has become a little bit more faster now in terms of registering FDLs within Vanuatu. And yeah, just as a key way forward, and these discussions have been had with John and the other VFSC colleague members already, on how we can move forward in terms of giving more awareness, and especially on other aspects of licenses issued, formation, and all that, which if if we're all on the same page with the VFSC team, you'll understand what I'm trying to discuss here. If we could have more discussions and way forward with other key government departments. I think in the room at the moment there's only 3 government bodies here, and we're all statutory bodies, nobody specific inside the government apart from the minister this morning, but this is one way forward that I'm suggesting be put down as a recommendation and way forward for the symposium.
Thank you, Acting CEO of FIBA. I would like to come back a little bit and discuss the issue of banking, which is, sorry, not banking, but insurance. James has proposed this idea about establishing a bank specifically for FDLs. I would like to suggest the idea as well for members to think about that you can also establish a captive insurance for financial dealers. The law allows that, and that can be done very easily. So it's something that you can address to solve the insurance problem. I can see Max smiling there because he knows that it can be done. So yeah, that's another option for insurance. Okay, we have another. Come here.
Though we're talking about the banking and way forward, as James suggested, now, presently, we still have an issue with bank accounts. So my comment is towards the Commissioner and the Honourable Minister. In order to open an account for the local company, because as she explained, as it goes, and when the bank asks where the source of fund is coming from, and when there's anywhere in particular that we state that we're part of an FDL company, then that's where it stops. So just for the local company who employs the Ni Vanuatu and the people on the ground to provide that presence, can we have like maybe you can agree to having a sort of like a guarantee or confirmation to the local bank to say that, okay, the local company is good to operate in order so that we can get the bank account open, so that we can progress further than being stagnant here because we couldn't have a bank account. So that's a solution. We need a solution to opening these bank accounts, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Delphine. Any more questions or comments? Dr. Michael? That's correct.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, so the Axia Group, for example, has licenses around the world. There's, in some of those licenses are targeted at particular marketplaces, different parts of the world. Here in Vanuatu, we'll be targeting the Southeast Asian marketplace, and other licenses target They may overlap, they may not, and other brokers may target different markets from different places. In terms of the trading obviously all happens online. There's different kind of ways to kind of categorise where that takes place. It may be where the trading platforms are, whether they are kind of located in a particular place, or it may well be where the clients are, or it may be where the business is. And tax regimes differ around the world in terms of where they categorise those profits to be made. And then there's all sorts of transfer pricing arrangements in place that firms establish to determine where the profits are logged, essentially. So each firm's different, they're run differently, there's not an easy answer to that one, to be honest.
I've forgotten what I was going to say now. No, I'll come back to you.
It's okay, Laurie.
Oh, yes, sorry, just remembered. So because the licenses here are held by international companies can't, by definition, can't do business in Vanuatu. So if any of us living in Vanuatu want to open accounts, we can't open accounts with you, can we? But can we deal with your offshore offices?
That would be for each provider. For us, for example, no, but other firms may be able to.
Right, thanks.
Laurie, there's not really the demand locally. Our products are CFDs, they're derivatives. It's trading, so it's a high risk industry. So there's not a lot of demand locally, so it's not something that we've ever had to look at nor consider. No one's asked us, really. Actually, we have, but they've been resident in Vanuatu, but no, we haven't been able to do that because they're in Vanuatu.
Right.
Thank you. Maybe we'll just have one more comment, and then we will, Dr. Michael.
Yeah, just a brief comment on the issue of banking. And I thank James Hudson for, outlining some of the issues that are out there. And in terms of de-risking, the issue of banking, therefore, has been a critical aspect of banking since 2001, after what happened in New York. And I think what this de-risking is being pushed by international banks has, I think, highlighted the small size economies in the Pacific particularly, as to the risks that are out there. And like James said, I think the banks being conservative are reacting to it. And I think that the issue of FATF blacklisting has been really one of the things that have driven this. We've also passed, like you said, a number of laws that kind of addressed the issues, but the EU, when it unilaterally blacklisted Vanuatu, also I think it's a significant development, and I think we need to address it. And I think we need to work with others in the region to address it, and because it's just significant. I just want to add some of the things that are being worked on at the Reserve Bank, and one of the things that we are doing now is called eKYC. But this is particularly for individuals in Vanuatu, because we realize that a lot of the population in Vanuatu are still unbanked,
and to bring them on board. This concept of eKYC is being developed, being piloted in the Pacific countries. The central banks in the Pacific are collaborating to do it. It's, like I said, piloted in 2 countries in the Pacific, and we will need to, I think, collaborate with other government agencies in Vanuatu to institutionalize it. I think one of the things we'll work on is for the individual where the data comes from, to identify it, whether it's through for example, birth certificates, and who houses that. Can it be used for an eKYC and also for the banking sector? Maybe a business name registry with the VFSC for the corporate sector. But that is also being looked at, and I think it will be one of the things we should push for and in the coming months. The other thing, like James said, was in terms of, I think, second-tier kind of licenses. And I think that's one of the things where we will be looking at, because the Financial Institutions Act is just for banks, but there probably might be need to look at lower-tier kind of licenses that can be considered as well. And of course, there's also these sandboxes that James mentioned, a kind of fintech sandbox where you develop an idea, it gets to work out, and we learn from the lessons, and we license it. So these are the things that we've been working on, and just shared with a symposium this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Michael. I'll just give last chance to the director of FIU to say a few words, and then after that, we will have the commissioner up here to say a few words, and then the minister will come later on.
Thank you so much, Joshua. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Floyd from the FIU. Thank you to the panelists for the presentation, particularly thank you to Thomas Tona for highlighting the challenges with the blacklisting. I understand the challenges, but like James mentioned, it's not a solution, it's not a challenge that we can solve tomorrow. So I just want to provide a clarification on the Vanuatu's EU AML CTF blacklisting. Just a background that we were firstly placed on the EU taxation or OECD. The bank took note of that listing, and therefore, as compliant banks in the global market, Vanuatu doesn't have the reputation to do business. It's a high-risk AML-CTF jurisdiction. So for us to actually address the deficiencies, we have to start with the taxation. If we sort out our taxation issues, then we will have a cascading effect into our AML, and once that is cleared, hopefully we should have a more conducive world to do business.
Thank you very much, Director Floyd, for the clarification. Thank you, all the panelists. You can take your seats now. I'll ask the Commissioner to come up and say a few words.
Thank you so much. I think it's been a long day. I don't want to bore you any further, but I must say it is a very excellent symposium. Is that right? I've decided that the minister is going to come and do the wrap-up. But basically, on my side, it's basically I just want to thank everyone for coming today. We've discussed at length. There's so many things. My secretarial team are on the side. All the outcomes will be circulated to all of you. And based on all these suggestions, we are hoping that we are all going to continue to do work together. Collaboration for this effort. So I'm just glad that with the partnership with the industry and all our sponsors here, we are able to make this happen. Without this support, this event wouldn't be organized. And I think we have seen the impact today. We can do things together if we work together. And we are looking forward to reviewing all the feedbacks. I hope Mark has provided his feedback in the feedback sheet. So we can see this and work in some way forward. I think I'm getting some indication that we should do more of this. So I think this is good. Very good suggestions coming out today, and just sitting there, and it's quite very, very good. And I know Vanuatu is growing, but there's a lot of challenges. But I want to encourage all of us to hang in there and continue to work together. I think with all these challenges, it will make us more strong, and we should be able to position Vanuatu more better. I want to thank the Honorable Minister. He's been here with us the whole day. That's the commitment from the government. A big applause to him. And without further ado, I'll give him the opportunity to come and basically say a few words in terms of what the government wants to say. And I think from this speech, he will finish off the ceremony for this afternoon with a prayer.
Okay. Do you guys know the Coconut Club? Coconut Club? You've never had a Coconut Club before? So I'm going to teach you something today. Coconut Club goes like this. Go 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you ready to do a Coconut Club? Okay, 1, 2, 3. So there's some words that are coming through that we should get harmonized. I think for me the word is encouraged. Are you encouraged? If you have been encouraged today, give yourselves a coconut clap. Ready? So thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you very much, Loretta. Thank you very much, all the panelists that have been here today. Thank you, all of you, for sitting here until now. That to me means that we are all in the same canoe, the Vanuatu canoe. And so you should give yourselves a coconut clap for being on the Vanuatu canoe. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the Chinese say that opportunity rides on a dangerous wind. So just because you're on the Vanuatu canoe and we can see the horizon, there's storms, but we know opportunity is there. And so I can say that I'm very happy that I have such a theme as this, of all these people who can see my country as a place to come and continue to invest. We will have challenges, but your competence, your enthusiasm, your ability to see opportunity despite the challenges is, to me, very encouraging. And therefore, I have confidence that you are going to assist me in growing the economy of Vanuatu. So give yourselves another coconut clap. So if you remember nothing else today, you will remember coconut clap. I would encourage the industry to get together, work together, and make sure that I'm in the loop in terms of how we can articulate some of the issues that are binding constraints to your business, because your business is my economy. Your business is my economy, and I want your business to grow. This country has a GDP per capita of $3,500 per person per annum. And I know that all the people, the young people that you're hiring, are making a lot more than that. And so I encourage you to continue to grow your businesses. Continue to look at how we can work together to overcome some of the bureaucratic hurdles. Continue to work with us in overcoming some of the challenges we have in terms of our paradigms, so we can shift to see the future. The young people are seeing the future, but some of us oldies have some challenges. So you have to be patient and just work with us. Can you give yourselves a coconut clap? I don't see you drinking any coconut. Do it again. There you go. Okay, so I know you're all tired and you need to go home. And I am very privileged to have sat through this, to have heard all that I have heard. I've learned a lot. I know there's a lot that I don't know. But with all you people with us, working together as a team, Team Vanuatu, I think we can do it. Can we do it? Say, I think we can. Yes, we can? Yes. So let's work together. And all you who are recent newcomers, I encourage you to stick with us, work with us, and we as a country will continue to try to do what we can to be able to assist in helping you establish a new industry. Like my brother said, we are now past coconuts. We still have a bit of tourism, but we're definitely way past coconuts because the rhinoceros beetle is killing all of it. So we really need to get into new industries, new sectors, and I cannot see anything else. I cannot see anything else that can grow the economy so that we can get a GDP per capita per annum of $12,000 per person per annum. So you are it. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end. Commissioner, I'm going to be standing behind you, your team. Please make sure that you continue to take all these great ideas forward. There's going to be a summit starting on Sunday. I would ask that if any of you can articulate the points that have been raised here so that we can bring it into the summit, that will then begin to set the agenda that government can begin to see from your perspective, and then we can hopefully be able to transaction some things quicker. So without further ado, I would now take the opportunity as Minister to congratulate all of you, to thank all of you, and to now declare that our symposium is officially closed. So now I will ask all of you to stand, and we will say a prayer. You may come before God, Lord, pray, you may pray. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. From country, I may dedicate him to you. Say, Lord God, for not to stand up. May I start pray, say by also you read them, Psalms 91. So by you send them all angels from heaven, will come assist him, and we've like look. Though all money only look all some man, but you send them all come help him, have a growing economy, Republic of Vanuatu. Help them all people of Vanuatu, please have a look save. One name you write them Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2. Says some have entertained angels unawares. Plumivla look save all friends, Plumivla we start bless ya. Plumivla work closely with the Mogata. Continue bringing blessings come country Blumivla. Thank you, Lord, everyone we only been work hard organizing this symposium. You continue to strengthen the Molgata, but you continue to drive the Mogata, make him sure if I move forward, achieve him a real mandate for this country, Republic of Vanuatu. Thank you from every something. Continue with the Mivla and bless them every drinks, anything else we will share them throughout this day. This Mivla now with them love, joy, more peace, for you. Then them Lord Jesus will I pray. Amen.
So we have the cocktail right on this side.